Hello everyone. Today we're going to make duck breast charcuterie using the equilibrium curing method and dry aging bags. Now the whole process takes about 3.5 months, but it's a super simple process with only a few ingredients and very few special equipment needs. All you need is duck breast, salt, some seasoning if you'd like, a vacuum sealer, and dry aging bags. You can also use cheesecloth and wrap it, but I prefer the dry aging bags. It's cleaner and less for me to worry about if there's any mold or anything like that. So first step is to measure the duck breast. Now you do want to use a scale. You can't estimate anything, and you do want to record your measurements as accurately as possible. So let's put the plate on, zero out the scale. So these two duck breasts are 805 grams. I'm gonna write that down here. And then I'm gonna calculate 3% of that, and that's how much salt I'm gonna use. So 805 times 0.03 is 24.15 grams, so I'm gonna go with 25 grams of salt, just to be on the safe side. And I like the equilibrium curing method because you know you have enough salt and you know the end product isn't going to be too salty. So here I'm using kosher salt, but you can use any type of salt you'd like. But I would recommend salt without any additives like iodine or anything like that, or anti-caking agents. So 25 grams. All right, that's 25 grams there. Next, I'm just going to rub the salt on both sides. Now at this point, it's not super important that you get the salt evenly all over, because once it's in the vacuum seal bag, it is going to reach equilibrium eventually. But the more even you start out with, the faster that process will take. So I'm putting just enough to coat everything. The rest I'm leaving in the cup here, and I'm just going to dump that in the vacuum seal bag. And so usually a little bit is left on your hand, so I'll add another pinch or two in the bag, just to be safe. And at 3%, it's definitely not overly salty, so if it's a little over, it's fine. You just want to make sure you're not under on your sodium level, bacterial growth. So the salt inhibits the growth of the bad bacteria. So again, a little over is fine. You just want to make sure you're not under. So next, I'm going to season these. You can use any seasoning you like. I like to use Chinese 5-spice powder. The end product is almost reminiscent of Peking duck, and it's just kind of this unctuous, delicious Peking duck-like charcuterie. I just think anything that you like going on your duck in general when you're grilling it or cooking it will go great for the charcuterie. So I put a generous amount on both sides. And you can get this at any Asian supermarket, or even some of the bigger supermarkets with an international section will have this 5-spice available. All right, I'm gonna get the vacuum sealer set up. I'm just gonna get the duck breast into the bag here. this salt that's left over on the plate, you want to get in there. And I'm going to sprinkle in the rest of the salt somewhat evenly, but again, it doesn't matter all that much because the amount of time it's going to spend in the bag, it is going to reach equilibrium, meaning the salt will dissolve in the juices that come out of the duck breast and it'll be absorbed evenly throughout the muscle. Now, some people do use curing salts for this. I choose not to, and it's generally considered not required if it's a whole muscle cure. If you're using any sort of ground meat, like making salami, things like that, you definitely want to use curing salts. But being that it's a whole muscle, you can use just salt as long as you make sure you have the 3%. So again, I'm just adding another extra pinch for anything that might have been stuck on my hands or on the plate. Seal this up. And that's it. So now we're done for about 2 weeks. So you can just go ahead and leave this in your refrigerator for 2 weeks. Let the salt penetrate into the meat. And then once that's done, I'll show you how to put it into the dry aging bags and what the rest of the process looks like there. Again, super simple, not a lot of active time. Be back in 2 weeks. All right, so it's been 2 weeks now. So the duck breast should have reached equilibrium with the salt that was applied to it. So the whole muscle should have an even amount of sodium throughout. So I'm gonna go ahead and open these up, rinse them thoroughly, and then bag them up in the dry age bags. Once they're out of the bag too, you wanna give them a quick smell. Make sure there's no off smells or the smell of rot. It should really just smell like your seasoning and fresh raw meat. So I'm gonna rinse these off thoroughly and then pat them dry. You don't need to squeeze them or anything, but you do want to pat them as dry as possible because the whole point of this is to reduce the moisture up to your target weight. So any extra water on the surface is just gonna take longer to get to your desired weight. Dry. And you can leave them flat like this, but I tend to like to make them a little narrower and a little thicker. So I'll give them a little squeeze down the long way. Get the shape you want. You want to be careful not to squeeze too much where these ends kind of just fold over on themselves. You want to just squeeze as far as you can without the meat crinkling on the bottom. So it's a little bit more of a roll shape like that. Two. And you'll see after it's been curing for a while, it actually, even before you put it in the bag, it holds the shape pretty well. All right, now this next step is absolutely crucial. You need to weigh the duck breast before putting it into the dry aging bag or wrapping it with cheesecloth to dry, because you need to get to a target weight of well, you want to get to 30% reduction in weight. So let's start out with the big one here. So that is 429 grams. So I'm gonna make note of the date and the weight. 429. Okay. this one off. I'm gonna zero the scale again. So duck breast B is 356 grams. All right, I'm gonna bag these up and then throw them in the fridge. Now that they're in the dry age bags, I just want to put this yellow strip here. And so what the yellow strip does is it allows you to use the dry age bags in a regular kind of home version vacuum sealer. If you're looking for more detailed instructions on how to use these bags, you can check out my other video where I did a full strip loin roast, dry aged. I'll put a card right up here. But now when you're doing this, you want to make sure you have good surface contact. It's okay if you have some air bubbles here and there, but you do want to massage it a little bit as it's sealing. Just make sure that you have surface contact with as large a portion of the meat as possible. I mean, it's there. Look, got good surface contact throughout, and so it's where the meat's contacting the bag. This membrane is where the air exchange can happen, where the moisture can leave, but oxygen can still be there. Take a look here, making sure that we have a good seal, good surface contact. Again, some small air pockets like you have over here are fine as long as the majority of the meat is touching the membrane, because that's where the moisture exchange happens, right? It's wherever it's touching is where the moisture from the meat can escape. So looks pretty good. I'm gonna leave it out for a little bit and make sure the seal doesn't fail. With the times I've used it in the past, sometimes you leave it out for 5 minutes, you'll notice that the seal isn't tight anymore, and you kind of just have to reseal it. I'll go ahead and do the other one. I feel like this one's definitely a little loose. I'm gonna have to redo this one, but I'll do that, and I'll be back. So I'm just gonna go ahead and place these in the fridge, and it's very important that you do have some sort of drying rack because air needs to circulate around the whole piece. So I put these right in the back there, and then every couple of days I'll just move them around, or I'll flip them. That way where they're leaning on the grate will change, and you'll get good circulation around the whole cut. Usually for the first week or so, I'll check it every couple of days. Again, just making sure that the bag adheres properly to the meat and that the seal doesn't break. After that, you can really check it every 2-3 weeks until you're closer to your target weight, and then you would start checking the weight a little more regularly, just so you don't overshoot it. And one kind of tip is that if once you open the meat, Once it's ready and you open it and you cut it to slice it to eat it, you notice the outside edge might be much drier and tougher than the middle, but it's already at the target weight. And so to fix that issue, you actually just put it in a regular vacuum seal bag and you throw that back in your refrigerator, and over about a week or so, the moisture will kind of redistribute itself evenly throughout the cut. All right, here we are, 3 months from the start of the project. So a couple weeks faster than expected, but we are at the target weight. So let's cut it open and try it out. So target weight on this was 305. It's actually at 300, and that was 305 including the weight of the bag. We're at 300, so it's lost a hair over 30% of its moisture, which would indicate that it is ready. So we're gonna go ahead and cut it open and see what it looks like. First, you can just take a look, make sure there's no green fuzzy mold or anything like that, and all looks good. So it did loosen up a little, as it does sometimes with charcuterie versus when you're dry aging meat, it really adheres well to it. But as long as the seal's solid and you don't see any mold growing, it's generally fine. And once you open it up, as long as there's no off smells, you know you're good. All right, you can see got a nice coat of oil on it. Let's give it a whiff. Smells very nice, no off flavors, no smell of rancid fat or anything like that. So let's cut right into it, and then I'll slice it up. So nice deep red color there. And you'll see the inside isn't as dry as the outside. And so to fix that, all you have to do is vacuum seal it and leave it alone for a week or two, and then the moisture level will balance out in between. I don't mind it too much. I kind of like the difference in texture, but if you want it to be completely consistent throughout, just vacuum seal it and leave it alone for a little bit. All right. And you can see the fat just melts just from the heat of my hand. And so you know that's just going to completely dissolve in your mouth. So let's give it a taste. Well, really came out perfect. Exactly what I was hoping for. I've made it a few times now, and you forget how good it is because you have to wait so long before you have another batch, or at least I have I'll make a batch, and then after I finish it, I'll make another. Then it's like another 3-month wait. But it is as good as I remembered the last batch to be. Yeah, the fat really just completely dissolves in your mouth like butter, but much more full of flavor, much more savory. No question that you're eating duck. The skin's almost a little crispy too because it's so dried out, but the fat still dissolves so easily, so it's got a little bit of crisp to it. And with the 5-spice seasoning, it really does taste like Peking duck. So there you have it. And again, I actually do prefer it with a slight bit of difference in texture here, so I really do enjoy this. There you have it. Very simple, takes a lot of time, but the results are absolutely worth it. I do highly recommend you give it a shot. If you have the dry aging bags, I do recommend that, but I've also made it with just wrapping in cheesecloth, and that's been fine as well. You just want to make sure you have good air circulation on there. If you have any questions about the process or anything like that, feel free to drop it in the comments below. Thanks for watching.